my last speech to the General Assembly, I have described events and trends and needs as we in Tanzania perceive them. To be silent when we see danger, to refrain from attacking policies which we see as contrary to the interest of peace and justice. To do these things would be to surrender our freedom and our dignity. That we shall never do. Thank you.
What kind of leader willingly gives up power? What kind of president chooses simplicity over wealth, unity over personal ambition, and steps down voluntarily after decades in power? In a world where many leaders cling to power, one African president did the opposite. He lived modestly, preached unity, and believed that Africa's future depended not on foreign aid, but on African cooperation. That man was Julius Nyerere, known as Mwalimu, meaning teacher in Swahili. Nyerere became one of the most respected leaders in African history. He led Tanzania for more than 2 decades, united 2 nations into one country, and became one of the strongest voices for Pan-African unity. But his story is far deeper than politics. It is a story of vision, sacrifice, and a dream for a truly independent Africa. Today on Africarized, we explore the incredible life of Julius Nyerere, the teacher who helped shape modern Africa. Julius Nyerere was born in 1922 in the village of Butiama, in what was then Tanganyika, a territory under British colonial rule. He grew up in a traditional African community where cooperation and shared responsibility were part of daily life. His father was a local chief, but young Julius did not grow up surrounded by luxury. Instead, he grew up witnessing the inequalities of colonial rule. At the time, Africans in Tanganyika had very limited political power. Education was also extremely restricted. But Nyerere showed exceptional academic ability. He attended Makerere University in Uganda, one of the most prestigious institutions in East Africa at the time. Later, he became the first Tanganyikan to study at the University of Edinburgh in the United Kingdom. When he returned home, he began working as a teacher, and that is how he earned the name that would follow him for the rest of his life, a Mwalimu, the teacher. During the 1950s, the winds of independence were sweeping across Africa. Across the continent, Africans were beginning to demand freedom from colonial rule. Nyerere quickly emerged as one of Tanganyika's most important political voices. He helped form the Tanganyika African National Union, a political movement demanding independence from Britain. Unlike many liberation movements that turned violent, Nyerere pushed for peaceful political mobilization. His speeches emphasized dignity, unity, and self-determination, and his calm but powerful leadership inspired millions.
Now, you recently attended the OAU conference in Accra. What is your opinion now about the status of African unity? That's one part of the question, and the second one is, how about unity here in East Africa? Why don't we hear any more about the East African Federation?
May I answer first? I think the second part of the question is probably easier and perhaps could explain my answer to the first part of the question. I'm a great believer in unity. I believe in the old adage, unity is strength. I mean, this is truly, it is strength. And the human race would be much stronger if we were united. We'd get rid of a lot of problems in the world if we could be united. And therefore, the human race must move towards unity. And continents like mine, a country like Tanzania must move towards greater unity. Continents must move towards greater unity. And the human race must move towards unity.
Finally, in 1961, Tanganyika achieved independence from Britain. Julius Nyerere became the first prime minister and soon after, the first president of independent Tanganyika. But his greatest political achievement was still ahead. Just 3 years after Tanganyika gained independence, a revolution erupted on the island of Zanzibar. The island, which had been ruled by an Arab sultanate, experienced a dramatic political transformation. Shortly after the revolution, Nyerere and Zanzibar's leader decided to form a political union. In 1964, Tanganyika and Zanzibar merged to create a new country, Tanzania. This was one of the most unique political unions in modern history, and Julius Nyerere became the first president of the United Republic.
so heavily represented in your union parliament?
Well, some people want to know, both outside. This question is asked not merely by non-Tanzanians. Sometimes it's asked by Tanzanians. But remember what has happened. What has happened is a merger between two countries. It's a merger between two countries. And when you are talking about countries, there is no big country and small country. Countries are equal. Zanzibar was an independent sovereign state, not less sovereign than Tanzania, and Tanganyika was an independent sovereign state. And the problem is really how it's a question of constitution. How do you merge these two countries? And what kind of constitution do you adopt? Now, take the United States of America. Their own constitution provides for two houses. In one house, what is represented there are the states, and they're treated as equal. There's no big one, there's no small one. All of them are represented in the Senate by an equal number of people. Then you have the House of Representatives, where then you base it on population. We don't have two systems, but obvious, just as in the United States, you must take into consideration that the mergers are states, and states must be equal. Even in our own case, although we rejected a two-house system, you can't forget that in their stateness, Tanganyika and Zanzibar are equals.
To this day, Tanzania remains one of the most stable countries in Africa, and the Union still exists. Nyerere believed that independence alone was not enough. Political freedom had to be followed by economic independence. To achieve this, he introduced a unique African economic philosophy called Ujamaa. Ujamaa means familyhood. It was based on traditional African values of cooperation, sharing, and community living.
Theoretically, orthodox socialism is born out of capitalism. A society develops until it is fully capitalistic. And from this womb of capitalism is born the child called socialism. It's a child born of capitalism. In order to have this kind of society, as I said, you have to develop capitalism fully. Now, we were not developed. Our capitalism here was not developed. We hadn't started. We don't have capitalists here. We have to build a socialist society from poverty. Now, we are saying these ideas are likely to be different because we are starting from the concepts of sharing which come from a basically communal society. There is where we start from. We don't start with capitalism. We understand capitalism theoretically because we've read about it and we've seen some of it here. But this is not the thing under which our people are suffering. They're suffering from primitive poverty.
Instead of extreme capitalism or strict communism, Nyerere envisioned a system rooted in African culture. He encouraged villagers to work collectively, share resources, and focus on education and healthcare. His goal was simple: to create a society where no one was left behind. Nyerere's policies had mixed results. On the positive side, Tanzania made major progress in education and literacy. Under his leadership, primary school enrollment increased dramatically. Healthcare access also improved in many rural areas. However, the economic system faced serious challenges. Collective farming programs struggled with inefficiencies, and the country faced economic difficulties during the 1970s and 1980s. Yet even critics acknowledged something rare in global politics. Nyerere remained personally honest and humble. He did not enrich himself while in power. He did not build massive personal fortunes. And he lived a simple lifestyle compared to many world leaders.
Some of the problems we are now handling in Africa, some of the mess we're trying to clean up in the continent, we have inherited. The mess of the borders we have inherited.
The colonial powers through the borders.
Yes. The colonial powers and some not colonial powers in Africa have supported regimes which are very corrupt on that continent. I think now they should stop backing up these corrupt regimes and let the Africans in their own way, try and establish regimes which can care about people.
And so you cannot compare current rulers to Sarah, Nyerere, and others. Right. They were, I think they were done by God to redeem Africa from servitude.
The Julius Nyerere's...
Oh, Nyerere died. No, when Nyerere retired, he didn't have anywhere to sleep. The Tanzanians made contribution. They went begging for to build the former president a house, 3-bedroom house.
Right.
That's the leadership I'm talking about, of quality, of integrity, of honesty, of sincerity. We don't have them.
One of the most remarkable moments in Nyerere's career came in 1985. After more than 2 decades in power, he voluntarily stepped down as president.
Sometimes I get annoyed, but sometimes I don't get annoyed. Here I am, former president of my country, no problem in Tanzania. We've never had these problems that they have. But I'm an African, and they see me, and they ask me the problems of Rwanda. I said, but I don't come from Rwanda. But you come from Africa. But I don't meet everybody. I don't meet an Englishman somewhere. If Blair was to come to Dar es Salaam, I don't ask him what is happening in Bosnia. It never occurs to me. I should ask Blair, what is happening to you Europeans because of what is happening in If President Cole was to come somewhere, I don't ask him what is happening in Chechnya. Well, Cole could say, why are you asking me anything about Chechnya? I don't know what is happening in Chechnya. But this is not true about Africa. About Africa, Mr. President, you go, here you are, trying to build something which is a tremendous experience. But perhaps you are different, because sometimes they think South Africa is different. So perhaps they would say, but this is President Mandela, this is different, it's not...
We do understand that the important role which South Africa is likely to play in an initiative of this nature. And we wanted to be part of Africa, not only geographically and politically, but from the point of view of our...
This was extremely rare among African leaders at the time. Many presidents remained in power for life, but Nyerere believed leadership
in their society, individual. This is the most essential thing.
Before we continue, quick reminder, if you enjoy learning about powerful African history and leaders like Julius Nyerere, you can support this channel. Visit the Africarized shop. We sell African-inspired hoodies, t-shirts, mugs and accessories celebrating African pride, culture and history. Every purchase helps us continue telling powerful African stories that are often ignored in mainstream media. Check the link in the description to explore the Africarized shop, movements across the continent. During his presidency, Tanzania became a base for freedom fighters from countries like Mozambique, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Namibia. These movements were fighting colonial rule and apartheid. Nyerere gave them political support and sometimes even military training bases. His belief was simple: Africa's freedom was incomplete until every African nation was free. Julius Nyerere passed away in 1999, but his legacy remains powerful. Today, he is remembered as one of Africa's most respected statesmen. In Tanzania, he is often called the father of the nation. Streets, universities, and institutions across Africa are named after him. But perhaps his greatest legacy is the political culture he left behind. Tanzania remains one of the most peaceful and stable countries in Africa. And many historians believe Nyerere's emphasis on unity helped prevent ethnic conflict in the country. Why Nyerere still matters today. In today's world, Africa continues to face many challenges: economic inequality, foreign resource exploitation, political instability. Nyerere's ideas about self-reliance and African cooperation remain relevant. He believed Africa should not depend entirely on foreign powers. Instead, Africans should build strong institutions. Unstoppable If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe and share Africarized. And remember, Africa is not just the birthplace of humanity. It is the birthplace of ideas, leaders and movements that change the world. See you in the next Africarized video.